about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that impact lasts in your absence, as famously said by Sheryl Sandberg. So, leadership is not just about your presence, it's about leaving a legacy behind, about inspiring others. I welcome you all today to an amazing panel discussion about women in leadership, hosted by ICNA Sisters Canada, to celebrate International Women's Day. I begin with the greetings of peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We will start our session with recitation from the Holy Quran. I would like to invite Sister Asra for coming and enlightening us with few words from the Holy Quran.
Thank you, Sister Imrana. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. Translation: O humanity, be mindful of your Lord, who created you from a single soul, and from it he created its mate. And through both he spread countless men and women. And be mindful of Allah, in whose name you appeal to one another, and honor family ties. Surely Allah is ever watchful over you. Sadaqallahul Azim. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Asra, for that beautiful reminder from the Holy Quran about the status of women. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge the land, give acknowledgement to the land where we are visitors. We would like to acknowledge the traditional territories and oral practices of Blackfoot nations, which includes the Siksika, the Piikani, and the Kainai. We also acknowledge the Tisuut'ina and Stoney Nakoda First Nations and Métis Nation, and all the people who make their homes in Treaty 7 region of Southern Alberta. Before I begin, I just wanted to give a brief introduction about our host, ICNA Sisters Canada. Today's webinar is a panel discussion that we're going to have with our amazing speakers, women who are leaders in their communities, who are contributing to the society. We at ICNA Sisters, our vision is building an exemplary Canadian Muslim community, a community that sets path towards personal excellence in faith, worship, morality, and shares basis for the moral, social, and economic development of the Canadian society. Our objectives is to motivate women to support the efforts for civil liberties and socioeconomic justice, to strengthen the bond of humanity by serving all those in need, by cooperating with other nations, other organizations that are working towards similar goals. And it's really amazing to know that ICNA Sisters was formed in 1978 by 6 visionary women. And from there, the journey started. And today, now we are a group of over 1,200 volunteers throughout Canada. Our members, our volunteers, are a group of dedicated women from all backgrounds and from all cultures and traditions. Our strength, our biggest asset is our group of volunteers who are working tirelessly in our community. So, the theme for today's panel discussion is Women in Leadership, the role played by women in recovery from the pandemic. Before we go on to the actual panel discussion, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Imrana Mohyuddin. I'm a member of the General Assembly of ICNA Sisters Canada. I am the lead of the Civic Engagement Department of ICNA Sisters Canada. I am an educator at Calgary Board of Education. I am a teacher assistant, and I am a religious studies instructor at Ad-Duha Institute of ICNA Sisters. Without further ado, I want to go into our topic. So, as stated by Canadian Women's Foundation about women in leadership in COVID 19, the Canadian Women's Foundation was talking about a very interesting article that I read a few weeks back. It was discussing about the role of women and that women are talking and Canada is listening. On a daily basis, we see women leaders coming from each and every aspect, each and every part of the community. We see women leaders working as chief medical officers who are playing a visible and powerful role in Canada's response to COVID 19. And there are countless less visible and less celebrated roles that women are playing as frontline workers in healthcare, in community based responses, in the service industry. They are the ones who are making the tough decisions. They are the ones who are making each and every effort to have a quick recovery from COVID 19. And we have seen that the pandemic has brought to surface so many women leaders in the community, not just in Canada, you must have seen it throughout the world. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce our speakers, our amazing women from different cities of Canada. And firstly, I would like to introduce Dr. Nahla Goma, a faculty member. She's a faculty member at the University of Alberta, a physician, an educator, researcher, and adjudicator. Dr. Nahla Goma started her community activities and training on interfaith dialogues at the Mother Mosque of America, Cedar Rapids, USA. She has been living in Edmonton for about a decade, invested in representing her community at an organizational level as a board member. She has been empowering children, youth, and ladies, keeping the Islamic teachings as a way of life. On a city and provincial level, she actively contributed to development of citywide annual events and Quran contests, mentorship programs for youth and newcomers to Edmonton. She has also represented the Muslim community as a speaker in interfaith settings and events around difficult times, such as the Quebec and New Zealand mosque shootings. She is currently serving as a member of the provincial Alberta Anti-Racism Advisory Council, in addition to being Alberta chapter lead of the Islamic History Month of Canada. Welcome, Dr. Nahla Goma. And one of our other panelists that I would like to introduce is Ms. Neelu Sachdev. Neelu Sachdev is the Executive Director of Regina Immigrant Women's Center, a settlement and integration agency assisting newcomers and immigrant women and their families in Regina. She has been instrumental in raising the profile of the center from a small association in 2003 to the current organization, which now has 3 locations in the city of Regina. Women and families from all cultures and backgrounds and immigration status seek the services of Regina Immigrant Women's Center. Neelu will be talking to us about the many programs offered at the center. Neelu was born in India and raised in the United States before coming to Regina. Her educational background is in psychology and administration from California State University, Los Angeles, and the University of Regina. She is a wife and mother, and taught folk dance for over 20 years through her neighborhood community association so her children could be exposed to their culture and music. Nilu won the YWCA's Women of Distinction Award in 2007 for cultural heritage. Thank you so much, Ms. Nilu, for joining us today and taking out time. Our other panelist is Dr. Fatima Kuwadia. Fatima was born in South Africa and immigrated to Canada in 1991. Fatima holds a Bachelor of Dental Science degree and a Master of Health Administration. She is a consultant with Kuwadia Consulting. Fatima has a passion for education, and this is carried over into her work on advancing citizenship education. Fatima was appointed as a commissioner at the Saskatchewan Human Rights Commission in January 2018. Always an ardent advocate for human rights and educator for championing good citizenship. Fatima is enjoying her role as commissioner. Over the years, Fatima has served on the board of Lake Ridge Cooperative Preschool, Maria Montessori Board of Directors as Parent Council Chair at Lake Ridge School, and Colette Bourgeon School, and on the School Community Council at Evan Hardy Collegiate. She is an active member within the Islamic Association of Saskatchewan and currently serves on the Faith Leaders Council at the University of Saskatchewan. Fatima and her husband Abdullah have 3 children, and they enjoy traveling and tasting the experiences of other cultures. She is the commissioner of Saskatchewan Human Rights Commission from 2018 to present. She is the board member of Remai Morden, Evan Hardy from 2019 to present, and the collegiate at the Parent Council I just mentioned from 2017 to 20, and as the Parent Council Chair from 2013 to 16, and the Vice Chair and Secretary from 2010 to 13. So without further ado, let us begin our session, and welcome to our dear panelists. So we have amazing lineup of speakers and panelists, and it's really good to have you amazing sisters in today's session, and we are hoping to get many lessons from all of you and get some inspiration for the women in our community. So let us first, after our introductions, let's talk about the community at large and the questions that we see, and the impact that women have played in the community. My first question will be for Dr. Nahla Goma. If you can have the question on the slides, please. And before we have the questions, we will just have a little bit of time for the speakers to introduce themselves. And Dr. Nahla, you're first. You'll get 10 minutes to please talk about the amazing work you're doing in the community, and then we'll move on to the panel discussion. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Dr. Nahla.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Sister Imrana, and I really am appreciating to the opportunity always to be with the ICNA sisters as usual. Being with my sisters and colleagues on the ground is my pleasure. So I think Sister Imrana has given more than introduction that I would be given, but I'll just give some highlights. Yes, I'm a physician by training, and I have my research and educational research as well as clinical research. On the side, or to the side, we are representing most of the Islamic organizations here in Edmonton at the city level and at the national level. But parallel to this, another axis of what I'm doing is recently with the COVID, and we'll talk about the strategies of how to use the COVID to your advantage in leadership, if we are lucky. As much as the COVID impacted us, we also joined with many colleagues from the new recently graduated physicians all around the nation, the Islamic Muslim Association of, or the Muslim Medical Association. And with that, we could put forward very nice guidelines and instructions for COVID when it started at the beginning. That was the start with COVID. So that's the national level involvement. In addition to Sister Imrana kindly introduced me, I am on the Anti-Racism Council. So with that also we have ongoing discussions about how to combat racism and especially when it comes to women. And same the thing at the faculty. Thank you, Sister Imrana.
You're most welcome. Next, and if Ms. Neelu Sachdev, if you want to share more information about the amazing work that you're doing, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank you very much for including me in your gathering today. I'm very honored to be here to speak on the programs that we have at the Regina Immigrant Women's Center. And I also want to wish everybody a very happy International Women's Day. Yes, as you have already told Imrana, I am working at the Regina Immigrant Women's Center, and I have been for many, many years. I think by doing that, I've contributed to building capacity of the organization that I work for and myself and the women who, newcomers and immigrant and refugee women who seek us out as an agency to get support and encouragement to pursue what they need to do in their new country. The four pillars of our agency are, our mandate are, our vision are education, enrichment, integration, and empowerment. And so all of those, I think combine to assist us in achieving leadership, in aspiring to being a leader in small ways and in large ways. And that's what we want to do at the Regina Immigrant Women's Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Neelu, for that amazing introduction of yourself and then talking about the great work you're doing with RIWC. Thank you so much. Next, I would request Dr. Fatima, please share some things that you have been doing in various capacities in Saskatoon.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and good afternoon to everyone. I'm based here on Treaty 6 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis in beautiful Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And I have to say today is a really lovely, warm, snow melting kind of day. So spring is in the air and it's a great day for us to be celebrating Women in Leadership and International Women's Day. Thank you to Imrana for the kind introduction and to ICNA Sisters Canada for the opportunity to be here with you all today. It really is my pleasure and an honor. Imrana mentioned quite a bit of my professional life, and so I thought I'm just going to give you a little bit more of a personal history so that you might get more of a sense of what has shaped my worldview and what has really propelled me into the direction that I'm at today in terms of the work that I do. So I was born in South Africa during a very volatile time in the South African history, in the midst of apartheid, which was the legal system of separation of people into different groups by skin color. And so growing up from the time I was born, really, I was very exposed to racism and discrimination, and really saw it and lived it, what I would term as possibly the world's greatest experiment or social construct of discrimination in action. So pretty much from the time you were born, where you were born, where you lived, where you learned, where you played, and even where you prayed, was segregated by the color of your skin. And I moved to Canada as a teenager, and I was exposed to all of a sudden a very different way of life, to other ways of doing things. And I think that this has really been instrumental, uh, and I've carried this worldview throughout my life. So professionally, I'm trained as a dentist, but I haven't been working clinically as a dentist for many years. I'm a mom to 3 kids, and I say I'm forever a student. Finished my master's in health administration and started a consulting business. But a lot of my work that I do in the community is via the work that I do with the Saskatchewan Human Rights Commission as a commissioner, and I'm very involved in citizenship education for students in schools and in other organizations and groups. I'm also involved in the Islamic Association of Saskatchewan, particularly with the media and the outreach and the multi-faith work that is done through the association. And I currently am the Muslim faith leader at the University of Saskatchewan. So where I started off my career and where I am today seems to have taken quite a different pathway, but I'm really grateful for all the opportunities that it's provided to me. So thank you, Imrana.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fatima, for that introduction and about your background from South Africa. I guess we come to Canada with all our different backgrounds and experiences, and make Canada a richer society, and we contribute to the community in so many different ways. Thank you so much for that introduction and a little bit of background for us to know. And let's after that introduction from everyone, a little bit of background for us to know from our amazing panelists, let us start our panel discussion. And our first question is to Dr. Nahla Guma. Before I begin, I just wanted to share that we at ICNA Sisters, we had done this poll on our social media regarding, have women played a major role in the path to recovery during this pandemic? And it was really interesting to get the poll results. And there were over 95% results, or people who have voted and said that 95% believe women did play an important role in recovery from this pandemic. So, Dr. Nahla, my question to you is, women make up 70% of all health and social service staff globally. Would you say that COVID-19 disproportionately impacts a woman? Can you please enlighten us regarding this? Thank you.
Jazakallah khairan, Sister Imrana. So being in the health and the health sector, of course, you see, I mean, going back to the history of COVID, and when it started in February and March 2020, it was just a shock for everyone, and we have to admit it was a shock. Even for the healthcare workers who were either Muslims or non-Muslims, women and men, we didn't know what we are facing. We were just getting reports from different countries that were affected before, like Spain, Italy, UK, and unfortunately, the frontier workers, for them, many of them were Muslims who lost their life to COVID. May Allah bless their souls, but they didn't back up. So we thought we have to have a strategy to prepare. The strategy, again, were sort of brainstorming strategy. We invented it from scratch because we didn't have anything to relate to when we started the pandemic, neither on the national level, nor at the organizational level, at the provincial level. even at the mosques, our mosques, every mosque, we're starting the strategy according to guidelines, yes, and what we know, the information that reached us about the virus. But again, there must have been some small differences at the beginning. I think with all of this, people were all over the place. So the issue at that time were the survival mode, as we see our kids playing games, they are on the survival mode. And so nobody cared about who is contributing or whether women are there or men are there. That wasn't an issue at that time. But later on, we came, like it landed in my hand, or I put my hand on some stats actually that are coming. It's not my research work, but part of my background is quality improvement or quality assurance. So I like to see statistics, and I like to see numbers, and numbers speak better than anything. So I'll ask to share the screen if I can.
Yes, please go ahead.
I cannot share the screen, sorry. Yeah, I think I can now.
Perfect.
Okay. I don't know if you guys see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it now.
Okay. So I got some information from different resources, and the majority of resources were coming from the States and from other countries. But generally, it was about the female leadership. So there are two aspects here when we talk about how COVID impacted the female or ladies in general. There is the aspect of ladies who were already in leadership at different capacities before the COVID, and how that impacted them or changing their leadership strategy. And there is the general population of ladies who are the everyday, the mom, the sister, living the everyday life. And it impacted us in the two axes, actually. So when it comes to the female leadership during COVID, and that's general statistics, not our Muslim statistics or anything, a professor from Oxford Business School at the University of Oxford is explaining some analysis that was done at the college, and they collected some leadership, like major leadership. I know it's just a template for us, but we are the majority of us at different capacities from this. So they saw the observation was the countries which are led by women had less impact of COVID in general than the general countries. We probably have heard and knew in the news about Germany had less impact than other countries. New Zealand also had a good control of their COVID cases early at the beginning of the first wave even. They have some coming up, like other cases or recent cases, but generally they had a good control ahead of everyone else in the first wave. We have to admit to this. Some reports also are talking about the glass cliff theory or phenomenon. So this is a phenomenon that they describe women in leadership. They can be silent. Nobody would care about them. Nobody would be convinced with what you're doing or how you're doing it until a crisis comes. And then they would put the women into more leadership at that time just to solve the problems. Yeah, that would be the time where you have if you are a leader, so you'll have things that can make you or break you at this time. If you deal with a strategy that's a quality improvement strategy, or you have your own strategy, then you're definitely going to make a difference with the society and community. Now, an analysis was done if women are different in their leadership than men, and definitely there was some reports coming from a difference in during crisis, specifically about the leadership between women and men. That one was clear during the COVID, especially in different countries. Here is a list of some attributes that women would excel to over men. And generally, there is always a difference. If you go by the attributes, we'll see the difference will go up and down, swing around some numbers, but there is always the difference when it comes to learning agility, when it comes to taking initiatives, when it comes to being motivated, when it comes to collaboration. This is a big thing that women would have even under pressure and under stress. They have less tendency to present their ego during crisis, because they will always have the incentive of being a mother, and you want to care for everyone. But some of these attributes are definitely the empathy, the collaboration, being self-directed, less risk averse. So unexpectedly, even though I'm in leadership, I know that I might be different. I take some calculated risks, but it ended up that all the women, this was an attribute for the women actually, that they take these calculated risks and they are fostering innovation. So it's not only me, it's everybody else. During acute stages, they tend to be more honest, to have more integrity, to get the society together, to reduce stress and anxiety. On the other hand, we can see the negative impact on the general parents, mothers in the society. And so that's away from the leadership. And we can see a difference that women who are particularly mothers of young children tended to have or to be more likely to consider leaving workforce entirely during the COVID. And of course, I mean, my children are grown up, alhamdulillah, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to continue. But I would imagine if you have a child who would go to the daycare and you need to drop him, and you have the lockdown, and so where are you going to leave your child? We had a point where even the children, we had the thought of the children would not be symptomatic, but they would be carriers of the virus. And therefore, young children, even at schools and stuff, they were advised to take it from like online. If the children is at home online by themselves, they are not going to do a thing. And so it was a very risky test for them, the motherhood of most of the parents, whether you stay with your children and follow their education, or to and leave your work completely, or leave temporarily until things change. Since the pandemic, also mothers that are a part of dual career couple are twice as likely as fathers to spend more hours on chores. And that's again intuitive. If you think of it, the amount of work that we need to do in sterilizing and changing and washing and stuff like this, there was so much added to it, even at home, when you get the groceries, how to deal with the groceries, how to put them in the fridge, and all that stuff. So it ended up to be more additional 5 hours or more to any woman compared to a man that she spends on house chores. Black women were also less likely to feel supported during the pandemic, which adds to our misery on all frontiers. Unfortunately, we have here in Alberta about 5 or 6 consecutive events like attacking against Black Muslim women with hijab in the past month, only in the past month that we are trying to deal with. So unfortunate events are happening with this. And we have to remember, during these epidemics or pandemics and during the lockdown, I find it, whenever you stress the system, or there is a concept in medicine, whenever you stress the system, the default will come on the surface. The way the system is designed will come on the surface. So if you stress out a person who is good from inside, or have a faith, or or have a way of resilience, he will be able to find ways around the stress. But if you stress out when people with mental health, that will also escalate the problem. So we have a huge problem now about people coming out of the lockdown, but coming out with huge mental health problems and burnout and angriness and stuff like this. So sorry, I lost my screen. So that's another risk of that we are living now, or another problem that we're living. Aggregated data from many companies show again the numbers of burnout, or the percentage of burnout were superior. We can find here that whenever you are at the senior level, women were having much more burnout signs. That's by the end of the lockdown. So even though they acted well during the first lockdown, let's say, but I mean, we have been into this for about a year. So definitely there is signs of burnout. Definitely there is signs of pressure at work. There is signs of exhaustion. But again and again, there is difference between men and women on the both frontiers. So definitely it impacted us, but it impacted us in two ways. In leadership, we could stabilize our feet a little bit, even though the pressure was not as easy and we were ignored and everything. So you send an email, no one answers to you because now everything has moved to online. So even people, when they could see you with the, presenting yourself as a leader, they are not seeing you and they don't have to answer you anymore or your emails. But on the other hand, I still, I'm proud and confident that the women, alhamdulillah, is what I'm seeing even from the new graduates, the new medical graduates, when we gathered in this online again or social media organization, they did amazing job. We were teaching them, they were training the trainers, they were teaching other people. They did amazing job with their communities and all over Canada. I've seen it in Toronto. They went out to the North Territories and they were training other people in the healthcare. They did fantastic job. So I'm still definitely very proud of them. Amrana, I hope this answered your question, and
Yeah,
I'll
thank you.
come
Thank you
back.
so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Nahla. That was really enlightening, and I really like the statistics and surveys that you presented. And I was also looking at the same statistics, and it was really amazing to see how much impact women have played, and how they are able to, overcome those challenges because of the pandemic, and not just in Canada, I would say throughout the world. Thank you so much, Dr. Nahla. Um, After we got to learn about what impact women COVID had on women, let's move on to our next question with Neelu Sachdev. And my question for you, Neelu, is how has COVID-19 impacted your ability to plan or participate in initiatives and events that support women in the community? Because you are working with RIWC, and I'm sure you must have faced that initially, but I'm sure you must have overcome. So please share us your experiences and enlighten us about this topic. Thank you.
Sure. Actually, while Dr. Goma was talking, I was kind of reliving everything that I've been through in the last year with my organization and with my staff. And as she mentioned, so many offices and businesses were impacted, and their ability to function was impacted so much by the pandemic in a huge way. And I kind of liken it to an earthquake. Because when I grew up in Los Angeles, where earthquakes come quite often, and when an earthquake comes, it shakes and jolts you, and you lose your footing until you also become really afraid, and so you have to overcome both of those, that impact of that earthquake, to be able to find some supports and find some help, and then start again. Pandemic did to us last March, almost just a year ago. One day we were walking around in our center as usual, and the next day we heard that schools had to close and there was going to be a lockdown. But as Dr. Goma was pointing out, when it first started coming in the news, I was thinking to myself, shouldn't we be planning something in anticipation? Like what's going to happen in Regina? And I approached funders and other organizations, and like even 2 weeks prior, and nobody was really giving any answers. Oh, it's not that bad, or it's in Europe, or it's in China, or whatever. But it wasn't really a reality for a lot of people, and even in different parts of Canada. Never mind Regina. So I thought, okay, fine, but I just had this feeling that we should be doing something more than we are. Anyway, then it hit. We had to close. And as we just heard, women who had children, whether they were our clients or they were our staff, they couldn't come to work anyway. And they couldn't even work from home because we didn't have them set up to do that, you know? So it took us about a month and a half to reconfigure ourselves, our heads, and our workplaces, and our families to be able to continue to do some work. So I would say that some of the roadblocks that we had were communication and collaboration among staff. And I, as the executive director, had to lead that. And even I'm sitting at home on a laptop, which I don't usually do, without an office. And I'm having to just try to figure out how does one function? How does one lead a staff team of 30, 35 people to do their work? Then we had to figure out how to establish communication with clients. Because remember, it's like being cut off and you have no communication anymore. Nobody can come to you. You can't go to them, which is what community organizations like us do. We depend on this in-person contact, you know, and our clients in the community, whether they're our clients or not, but the community depends on organizations like RIWC to just be there, you know, and this was a huge event and there was just nobody there. So how do you communicate? How do you reestablish communication? And then how do you continue programs virtually? Because there's no answer as to when this will end, when that initial lockdown would end. So those were the initial procedural things. And then, of course, there was the health and safety information for staff as well as for the community that we needed to get out because we didn't know in Regina what other organizations like ours were doing and how were they doing it. So all of those impacted our ability to plan, participate, and support the women in the community. As well, every year we have a couple of big events that we put on where we invite the community of immigrants and newcomers. And that's usually in December for Christmas as an open house where we have multicultural food and Canadian music to introduce everything to everybody, and VIPs, and we couldn't do that, so we had to cross that off. And then, of course, this month, tomorrow is International Women's Day, which we're celebrating today, and that's a huge thing for us. We collaborate with about 8 other organizations in Regina to celebrate International Women's Day. And we aren't able to do that either. So it's just been do what we can, the best that we can, and with a lot of help from our funders and the community in general that has responded really well to it. And so I can say after a year of doing this that we're actually getting good at it.
Yeah.
The best part is that the women and their families who we work with have found that using tools, IT tools, you know, and doing things virtually is good. They like it, you know, and it's taking away their isolation and helping them, not only them, but also helping their children as well, because we have programs for children as well online. So that's what we've been doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Neil. I do agree when you're talking about the impact of COVID as a earthquake. I was just thinking, for me, I guess it was a huge tsunami that we were all trying to, make sense of what's happening around us and how to, get back to the community work that we've been doing at ICNA Sisters. Uh, it was a struggle in so many ways, especially going online and doing everything virtually. I remember, since the past 4 or 5 years, we've been celebrating International Women's Day throughout major cities in Canada. But I would say even last year in March, things were not that bad. So I remember we had so many sessions that were International Women's Day that were in person. It has been a struggle, but I guess, as you said, we have now learned to live with this the new normal, as Dr. Hinsha says. And we have become a little bit comfortable with working online, working from home, and everything becoming online. And for myself too, I was just sharing with some of you that this is my second isolation, because I work in a school. And obviously, this is my I guess we're getting used to even the isolations and quarantine now, because it's thing that has become the new normal, and we're getting used to everything. Thank you so much, Neelu, for that. And let's move on to Dr. Fatima Kawardia now. And my question for her, because mashallah, she's working with the Human Rights Commission. How has the pandemic brought to surface different forms of inequities in Canadian society? It's a sad reality, but that's something that has become more prominent because of the pandemic. And sadly, I would say, so I've seen so many such things happening in Alberta. So if you could share some light on this question, please, Dr. Fatima. Thank you.
Absolutely, Imrana. So, when we talk about Canada and we talk about inequities in the international stage, it's something that most people can't reconcile, because Canada is seen internationally and Canadians are seen internationally as peacemakers and peacekeepers and a beacon of hope on the international stage. And so it's really a very sad to recognize that in Canada as well, we have lots of inequities. And this is not something new. We all know that we have a legacy of systemic discrimination and inequity in Canada that goes back to our colonialist history and past. And Canada has long since failed our Indigenous population, as well as our Black population and minority population, for well over 200 years, when Black loyalists were in Canada and mistreated. We also go back to treaties and how Canada has not upheld the end of the treaties, and so this has created large gaps and social inequities. It's not something new within our communities, but it has been disguised under our Canadian politeness and kindness and celebration of multiculturalism for so long that I think sometimes it's easy to just put it in our back pockets. What COVID-19 has done is really lifted this veil and caused us all to really shift our perspectives and put on a new lenses, really, as to how we look at social inequities within our society. And if we just think about what causes action, picture yourself, you're sitting outside, on a nice fall evening next to the fireplace and sitting comfortably and getting warm. And you'll probably sit there for a long time. What will make you move? If the fire starts becoming bigger and coming towards you, causing some discomfort, it's going to cause you to get up and move and act. And so similarly, discomfort of any sort tends to propel action within a community. And over the course of this last year, we've seen many different big events that happened internationally, mostly down south, with George Floyd's death being one of them, that really spurred organizations and groups into action. The Black Lives Matter protests and gaining traction, being an example of that. And so COVID has lifted this veil, and I'm going to just discuss some of the inequities that it's highlighted and brought to the forefront. And really, I think it has served as a welcome wake-up call to us all as Canadians who wish to build a society where everyone has opportunities to thrive in. So when COVID first started, and we all saw the panic and the hoarding that went along with food, and it got me really thinking about access to food and clean water generally in Canada. And we know this is a huge problem. Food insecurity is a problem across the country, particularly in the north and areas, on reserves, etc. Here we had people, all of us as well, realizing that life is not predictable. It's very volatile, and I think for the first time made us all examine our own privileges that we had. It didn't matter how much you had in your bank account if you went to the grocery store and the shelves were empty. And so it really served as a very clear wake-up call, and really got myself as well to really to look at food insecurity through a different lens, for sure. And it was something that I had to that I worked on early on in the pandemic, trying to get access to food for many of our students at the university. We had international students who were here who couldn't go back home, or couldn't work, and many needed a helping hand, especially during the start of the pandemic. And so we had to really be very creative in ways to ensure access to food for them. The second thing that I wanted to highlight was in healthcare. And we know that disproportionately minority groups were infected with COVID-19. And this is for a number of reasons, comorbidities, etc., that had resulted from historic inequity, but also access to care, access to housing. We know that lots of minority groups, newcomer groups, have multiple generations living in the same homes, or overcrowding up north and in reserves as well, that contributed to this disproportionate increase of COVID positive cases among minority groups. And again, one thing that really came out is inequities with regards to services for our seniors. And we saw the outbreaks in the care homes, the resulting mortalities, very, very disproportionately brought to the forefront how much work there still needs to be done to remedy the healthcare system in order to provide the same level of care to our seniors. When we talk about racial discrimination, COVID-19 really brought out the really ugly side of society. There was a really emboldened feeling people had from misusing charter rights and freedoms. When we look at even something as simple as getting people to wear a mask, it was being abused as a taking away rights and freedoms. But what we really need to realize is that our rights are only our rights when it doesn't impinge on the rights of others. And so that whole debate about individual freedoms over communities care, and ensuring that the community is taken priority over individuals. And so this emboldening of people brought out many cases particularly against Asian Canadians. We saw increase in hateful comments, actions, and a statistic that I saw recently that really blew my mind was that it was over 1,000% increase of hateful acts towards Asian Canadians in particular. And Sister Nala spoke about, and I have here gendered Islamophobia that seemed to have been brought to the forefront also during the COVID-19 pandemic, particularly with the case of our sisters in Edmonton over the last couple of months. And so another area that we saw impact of COVID-19 is in education. And with things moving so abruptly online, there were huge gaps and disparities with access to technology for many students, and this really impacted them disproportionately, with regards to education. We see it in the justice system with outbreaks within federal institutions and even local penitentiaries, where even inmates on remand, because of overcrowding and lack of effective protocols, led to real increase of COVID-19 cases within all of these institutions. And so COVID really had brought up many of these issues that were there, but we just didn't perhaps we needed that jolt to actually have the veil lifted so that we can actually hopefully now acknowledge the realities of these inequities and hopefully spur action. I have to say that it's even a global healthcare pandemic has turned into a political issue, and unfortunately, has created much more polarization within our country. And I think it's a really, really missed opportunity if we as humanity cannot recognize that even a virus so tiny and so invisible to us, we can't even see it, and yet it has impacted every single one of us in the entire world in some way or another. So, the virus does not discriminate, just like in nature, nature does not discriminate. So it's something that should really be a wake-up call for not only us in Canada, but us all globally, that we really are indeed one in humanity. Thank you.
That's absolutely true. I do agree with you, Dr. Fatima. And we at ICNA Sisters too have been struggling in the sense that, like, when we're trying to, do community projects in various cities of Canada, the biggest challenge was fighting Islamophobia in the midst of a pandemic, the attacks that happened in Edmonton. And alhamdulillah, like our ICNA sisters in Edmonton have been, trying to reach MPs and, media awareness campaigns to be able to fight Islamophobia. And I remember on 1st of February, we had a Canada-wide campaign for Hijab Day, trying to educate people, the community at large, to let them know what hijab is, and to let them know that women in hijab are members of the community. We are Canadians. We are contributing to the community at all aspects, and we are productive members of the community. We are giving back to the community. So I do agree that sadly, the pandemic has brought about so many forms of inequities and different challenges at different fronts. Let's move on from these questions to three questions that we have for our panelists. If we can go one by one, the first question that each one of you will answer is, what advice do you have for our young female leaders who are looking to integrate into the workforce during these trying times? I know, like, it has been a challenge for students in universities, and they obviously, it is different learning from home and the workplace, like when in terms of looking for jobs and all that. So, what advice do you have? If I can start with Neelu first.
Okay. Well, what I would say is that these are trying times, but we could still follow the principles that have guided us in better times and adapt them to the new. To me, what this pandemic has shown for the first time in my life, and I know for everybody else pretty much too, is that we have to adapt. And so it's been a tough lesson to learn for some of us, and I think especially for the younger people, because they just didn't go through. I mean, I was born in India, my children were born here. They have no idea of what it's like to live in another country other than in Canada. And so it's through this we learned that we were actually transported to have to learn to live in a different way, like in another country, and so we have to be up to that challenge. So I would say that since a lot of we're talking about Canada or North America, the young female leaders should think of this as a challenge in terms of the pandemic and how to assume leadership during it. They're already equipped with tools such as education, most of them, opportunity, digital learning, access to all kinds of news and social media. So they have to make a detour in their path, but not stop. And leadership qualities are often enhanced by detours, as we know. The labor market is a big challenge. We have a youth employment program at our center for women 16 to 30, which includes a employer placement component as well. That's been a challenge for us to do, but there is a lot of employment still happening. Volunteering is still happening. Volunteering online, a lot of employers and a lot of organizations in the community are doing, which we're utilizing volunteers online, and volunteering builds up your resume. So I would say to young leaders, do whatever you can to continue to use your skills. In fact, be more resourceful. You have to be more resourceful. That is a quality of leadership. Initiative is a quality of leadership. Take initiative. Flexibility is a quality of leadership that I value a lot. So all of those qualities, let's bring them out and look at them and see how can we use them. So be challenged by it instead of be stomped out by it.
Yeah, I do agree, and I relate to this question very much because both of my kids are in university, and I was just giving them the same advice that take the pandemic as a blessing in disguise, and you don't have to take the transit, you don't have to drive somewhere to go and volunteer or learn some courses. Do it online. I mean, it's a blessing in disguise. Thank you so much, Neelu, for that. Dr. Nahla, if you can shed some light on this question, please.
Sure, thank you. I can't agree more with Milo. There is a lot of things that we learn theoretically in our early learning or in faculty learning about sustainability in the healthcare system, and I'm sure in other jobs. That was theoretical at this time, but it came into a test with the COVID, I think. And like I said, when you stress the system, the best comes out of it. We all have our faith and we have our way of resilience and our way of coping with stresses. And we all had the shock at the beginning. I wouldn't say that anyone, whether a leader or not leader, young or old girl, didn't have the shock at the beginning. We all had the shock. It was a matter of time of how long does it take you to restabilize yourself and face the challenge rather than sitting and not doing anything and getting depressed and say, oh, there is no work that will take me around this time. No, I had amazing, again, examples of girls who went and, for example, volunteered for making PPEs when we were lacking PPEs, right? The gowns and masks and stuff. That was their volunteering. They could do it from home and they could safely distribute it to the people in the health and in the frontier, the healthcare workers. And we needed this the most because at some point we didn't have anything to see the patients with. Otherwise, we would completely stop seeing patients and go into a deterioration of the healthcare. In fact, we saw patients after even the first close, like lockdown, with more complications than anything, complications from general illnesses, not from COVID. So that was very important and pivotal to us, was to have anyone who is in volunteering, making the PPEs for people. I like to do things in a way, and I teach always the young girls to do it in a way of needs assessment at the beginning. Scan the society and community around you, see what's most required. And what is most required might be different from one time to another. Now it was the PPEs. It could be teaching online. We have switched all our teaching to online, even the mosques teaching, the Sunday schools and stuff like this, to online teaching. We needed volunteers to just, turn things into PDF and put it in a repository online. That was a good way of having spent time in volunteering, and then you can always claim this time as it was a volunteering opportunity, and then you will have better job opportunity even after this is settled down. But there was a lot to do. If we thought a little bit, it's just the shock froze everyone, I think, and people had some, which is a shock response. What am I doing now? Some people, unfortunately, went to the other direction and said, well, okay, let's just take the governmental assistance or whatever, and that would be enough for me. And this is I've seen both examples. It's fine, people can choose what they want to choose, but again, I take these opportunities as an opportunity that is given to us to build ourselves, like Nilo said, take the opportunity to be more resourceful. If you have a online course that you were putting on the shelf or in the back burner for some time, and you need to do it now. That will be something to foster, to boost your CV. Why not to do it? If you have a skill that you wanted to get more into it, do it now. Whatever your specialty, it doesn't matter, or whatever your major, it doesn't matter. It will help you. We had some research going online. We had the most difficulty because most of the researches, the lab researches were completely on stop, completely, let alone clinical research. It was the same thing. You can see patients. The students cannot do the research, and we switched them to online to do different type of researches. One of the best things that helped us in Alberta is to have the mentorship program. Again, equivalent to what Sister Nilo is saying. Find a mentor, and the mentor, should be able to find to you some opportunities for volunteering and for working, or both, and that helps a lot. So many things have switched into this mentoring type of strategy.
Yeah, I do agree. Thank you, Dr. Nala. And when you're talking about, making PPE at home for so many homemakers for young girls, we at ICNA Sisters had a Canada-wide campaign, I would say, of making scrub bags and masks. Sisters, women who are homemakers, who are at home, they were contributing so much by doing just a small and easy task of making face masks at home, which we were in dire need initially at the beginning of the pandemic. Dr. Fatima, if you have any comments for this question, you can add, and we can then move on to the next question.
Okay, sure. So Nilu and Nala had some really great advice that I had lots of that, the similar pieces of advice, but a little bit that I wanted to say was, know your worth and show your worth. Okay, so just have that grace and the courage to move forward. Take a chance. This is a really great opportunity to create a new normal. So if you had that idea brewing at the back of your mind, and if that's something that you want to explore further, now is the time to take that. What our reality was last year this time and what it is today has shifted. We never would have thought that we'd be ordering everything online and picking up our groceries online and doing pretty much everything online. Look at the changes that we've seen in every industry so far, and that's just in the last year. So if you had a new idea that was brewing that seemed really far-fetched last year this time, I would say just go along and start creating that as the new normal as we transition. Always just, be yourself, be your authentic self. Don't compromise on your identity or your values. Keep strong. Mentorship is really important, and both sisters had mentioned that. But one thing about mentorship that I wanted to say is find someone who you can really trust, someone that you have a great relationship, who will be honest with you, who will be compassionate with you in their criticism or their constructive feedback that they might give you. But in this time, really take care of yourself. Self-care is something really important, something that we neglect. And mental health, especially during this trying time of COVID, with the increased stress, it's been a really difficult time for our youngsters trying to navigate all of these things. So something that I'd like to really emphasize is take some time to focus on yourself and some self-care and mental health. So someone that you can trust to talk to and to discuss things is really a great source for that strength. And don't lose focus of the big things. Your end goal, always keep that in the forefront. COVID has caused us to deviate from our path in a lot of things and a lot of ways, but don't lose sight of that end goal that you set for yourself.
That's true.
So I think I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Fatima. And I was just thinking, after this 1 year of doing things remotely and being in webinars, I would say all of us can talk about it down the years and say that, we are quite comfortable working remotely, or we are now tech savvy, I would say, or even the older generations who had no clue how to sit at the computer, do Zoom meetings or join online sessions. I would say now everyone is quite used to it and they're comfortable doing it. And I was just reading something interesting online the other day about I'm really tired of all the online webinars and everything of, just sitting at home and looking at a screen. I would want to go in person to a webinar or to a workshop where the coffee is nasty and the crowd isn't that good, but I would like to have that human touch. And I guess all of us are missing that at some point or the other. But let's hope that we are moving towards that in the near future. Thank you so much to all our panelists for answering this question. Let's move on to the next one. We are a little bit of on a time crunch. If I can get 1 minute of response on this question: what new challenges have you encountered as a woman in leadership since the beginning of COVID-19, and how did you overcome them? If Neelu, if you can give us a brief response to this, please.
Well, I think the challenges I encountered, personal and professional challenges. Personal challenges were just how to keep in touch with, how to even see my kids or keep in touch with them. And make sure, well, as a mother, you always want your children to be safe. This is such a threat to our health and our well-being. And so it kind of hits you right in your heart, not just in your pocketbook, but it hits you in your heart because you want your family to be safe, your relatives to be safe. So you have this concern. So that was a huge challenge. I guess we dealt with it by doing Zoom calls, trying to see each other as much as we could. Similarly, professionally, the challenge was how, sitting at home, I can use my influence to encourage or to mentor or to supervise my staff who are working in so many different programs and on so many different things, because I have no assistants by myself at home. I don't have my assistant sitting right there. Everything I have to do on my own computer, or I have to call. So it's like you said, Imrana, using the phone and using the computer and using all of those things together, not even one at a time. And so those were challenges that I had to overcome. Some of it was fear in there, or of the unknown. So I had to just constantly think, well, I just have to do it. I just have to do it. So that's how, and I had to give encouragement to others. So having in leadership means you also have to be the mentor.
Yeah.
People. And when you're already struggling yourself, it's really hard to mentor others, but you still try to, get up with a smile and look at them on Zoom and smile at them and do all the things, you practice acting actually to a great extent as well, so that you can, and actually acting in a way that it's sincere enough that they don't think it's so.
I totally agree with that. Thank you so much, Neelu, for that. I guess all of us can relate to that at some point or the other. If Dr. Nalla, if we can get a quick response on this, and then Fatima, I'll come to you for a quick response.
Okay.
Go ahead, Nalla. Yeah.
So I think it's the story of everyone. Yes, you have this rocking feeling, switching feeling between the depression being, in the healthcare system. I don't know what's facing me tomorrow at the hospital. Am I going to come back or not? And my research is on the hold now. Everything is on the hold. And this light at the end of the tunnel that tells you, okay, but now you switched for like even online, you switch it instead of teaching few, like a handful of researchers, you can teach people around the whole nation. I saw amazing, again, I tend to be optimistic. Well, we are left with this. So I saw amazing examples for girls who started to think of how do you look in the OR, like in the operating theater, as with hijab. There is a lot of barriers, and we can talk about this in books, but they started to design even things to how to cover the head and how to use the mask without having to take out your hijab or your scarf. So again, these opportunities were for us actually to act sincerely as mentors and as parents and as mothers, and help the girls navigate their future. And I'm sure that will help them in their future life and career life, inshallah.
That's
Thank
true.
you.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Thank you so much, Dr. Nalla. Fatima, if you can give us a brief response to this question, please.
Okay, sure. So for me, a lot of the work that I do and have done in the past involved a lot of networking and meeting and connecting with people and organizations really socially. So a big challenge was then transitioning that into an online format. And eventually, I think we got there. So in the space that I occupy, I feel like we've managed to attain that and become more connected within that space, even though we hadn't expanded our networks. But I used it as an opportunity really to develop myself more in the space and to learn and to grow, so that hopefully, inshallah, I'll feel more ready and prepared to take on the next adventure post-COVID. And so one of the things I did during COVID was a huge challenge, and that was I ran in a municipal election for a school board trustee position. And I can say that at the best of times, that is a really daunting prospect, but became, of course, more challenging in getting myself out there, getting information out, and really trying to connect with people so that I could, present the best of myself to them during that election campaign. So that was, I think, the biggest challenge for me. And would I do it again? Maybe. Hopefully not. Hopefully not within a pandemic. But it certainly strengthened me in ways I didn't think I had it in me. So just to keep pushing and motivating myself, I think, was something I really learned during this time.
That's true. Thank you so much, Dr. Fatima, for that response. And we at ICNA Sisters too had, because our work is mostly, working at the grassroots level and having a lot of interaction with people and, providing support wherever necessary. It was a challenge for sure, but and we were able to overcome and move everything online and try to, do projects that involve less volunteers. My final question is, if you want, you can respond, or if you would say that you have already added on this point, is how can women continue to play an active role in the community in spite of the pandemic? I know some of you have already touched on this topic. And we have a couple of questions from our audience who have joined us on Zoom. So if we can have a quick response on this last question, please. Who would like to go first? Nilu or Fatima, Nahla, anyone, feel free to add, please.
I can go if no one else.
Sure.
I think I agree with you. We mentioned some points throughout the discussion, but I would say the most important advice that I would give for anyone is to go back and reflect yourself. Have some time in the morning and evening, 10 minutes, not more, to just reflect on your active role in the community. How the day. I apologize. How the day went and what did you do in that day to help your community. And I'm sure when you go into this needs assessment, like I said, needs assessment means that you find what's remaining, what's the gaps, or gap analysis, where are the gaps. You will find something to do and you will find something to fit yourself in. And it doesn't have to be career or it depends on skills, but it can also be something close to the community and the community would need it at the most. Or it can be something that the career, the people at the front needs it and it's most needed at this point of time. So I think that's how I keep, playing around things until something works out at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Yeah, trying our best in whatever role and capacity we can. Anyone wants to add on this? I know we have some audience in our Zoom chat who are wanting to ask questions related to our amazing panel discussion today. If anyone wants to add, Fatima or Nilu, go ahead, please.
I'll just say never underestimate your worth and what you can add and what value you can add. So never think that anything you do is too small. You never know what ripple effects it creates, and anything is better than nothing. So
absolutely, I would agree with that. Thank you, Nilu. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say that explore. Nowadays, exploring is so much easier because it can be done if you have the skills to do digital, to explore and on the phone ask questions so that you can. And so volunteering, community work is volunteering. Either you could develop something at home and invite people to participate in it through digital learning, or you can go into an organization and do it. But you have to take that initiative and you have to consistently ask questions and find out where you can fit in and with what you want to do. So don't be afraid, don't be shy. That's really important. Be confident.
That's true. I agree. And I guess the pandemic has taught us so many things in ways that we were never used to living in such conditions. But I guess we have learned to build those bridges in spite of the distances that separates us now. But I guess we have overcome those challenges. Thank you so much to our amazing panelists for today's very productive and inspiring panel discussion. If any of, I would take one question from our Zoom attendees. I know we had about 4 questions. If anyone wants to go ahead, Sister Nahid, Saeed, if you want to please open your mic and ask our panelist, then we can inshallah conclude. Sister Nahid Saeed is one of our board of directors at ICNA Sisters.
Okay, assalamu alaikum. Imrana, jazakallahu khairan kathira. I have heard sisters, I think Sister Nahla explaining how the countries with the women leadership coped better with the during the pandemic. But besides, like in journal, do you think women really suffered more than men mentally during this pandemic, and why?
Yeah, that's an excellent question.
I think that's the question for me. So
Yeah.
I think I give some explanation for it, Sister Nahed. So yes, even though the leadership was fine, they did well at the beginning. They do well acutely, but then the burnout was high. Was higher than men, and that's normal,
Yeah.
that's expected, because they had so much on their, whether the leadership was at the country level, or was as a provincial level, or however the leadership would be, or at organizational level. Women tends to put all their passion into things, which is great, but but there is also a backlash, or like a shortcoming with this, that you will have more work coming to you, and more stress on you from family and from work and from work colleagues and from everywhere. So definitely there will be early signs of burnout and early signs of stress. They will suffer more, but one of the things with the acute conditions like this, like in pandemics, you look at the outcome. If the outcome, yeah, like, I know it's not easy on us, but if the outcome is that you save the community around you in some way or another, either it's the children in their daycares, or it's the patients in or the senior homes, whatever you are required to save, or even the masajid, but you did what's required to be done, that's a good enough outcome to be achieved. Yes, you will have some consequences after this. It's not easy on anyone, but I mean, once we have the success of achieving a good outcome, it's easy for us to have some resolution, or have some faith into ourselves, and get some confidence, self-confidence. I hope that answered the question.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sister Nahid, for that question. And coincidentally, I was reading the other day a survey that was presented that because of the pandemic, women are, falling behind in so many ways. In terms of their careers, in terms of the workplace. And I would say that this session, this panel discussion we're doing today, and there's another amazing seminar tomorrow happening that ICNA Sisters is part of. I feel that we need to highlight the important role that we are playing in the community, and how we, as grassroots level, any organizations is doing. And I would say that when we are there in the community, working and playing our part, people around us know that women are, important part of the community, and they are playing that active role in the community. So I just wanted to highlight towards this conclusion of today's amazing panel discussion, that it took us a while for ICNA Sisters too, because we are a nonprofit organization comprising of volunteers from Montreal to Vancouver, from East Coast to West Coast. It was a challenge initially, but alhamdulillah, we were able to overcome those challenges, and we started working at all fronts. And as you see, I just wanted to share the amazing work that we at ICNA Sisters have done in the past year, and we are continuing to do this year too. So we worked with hospitals. We have donated hot lunches and treats, coffee to nurses and doctors at 20 different hospitals throughout Canada. And imagine, just as all volunteer-based work, and these are all sisters, women from different backgrounds, from different cities of Canada that have contributed. They've just gone to their hospitals, reached out to the nurses, shared some treats, a thank you card. And I feel this is what we need in the midst of a pandemic. We made, handmade masks. We made around 1,800 masks, and we distributed at so many different locations at hospitals. And we made donated scrub bags. So we had this Canada-wide campaign about making scrub bags, and we donated at cancer care in Cambridge and in eastern part of Canada too. And in terms of appreciating the frontline workers, we we wanted to cheer the frontline workers. Remember, I would say the past year has been challenging, especially for the frontline workers who were out there, who were functioning, who were making things work. And what we did was we wanted to, say thank you to them. We wanted to bring a smile to those people who were having such stressful days at the hospitals, at the stores. So we sent thank you cards. We sent gifts to the grocery store workers. We sent, thank you cards and gifts to the construction workers, to the EMS responders, to the pharmacy workers. And we also made online, we had a media campaign, a Canada-wide media campaign, where we made a small video clip about, our children saying thank you to the frontline workers. Because I feel in the midst of this pandemic where everything was so challenging, we needed this positive message, this hope that, we are Canadians, we are there for each other, we are there to make things easy and to help us to recover from this pandemic. And not just at the frontline workers, we also did so much of contribution at the different addiction centers. And you must have seen, because of the pandemic, there was an increase in various forms of addiction. There were overdose cases throughout Canada. And we saw that there was an increase in domestic abuse too. And in November, we had a similar webinar where we created awareness on the day of elimination of violence against women. And we also sent care packages and gift hampers to the Suicide Prevention Council, because the pandemic had an impact on the rate of suicide rates in Canada too. And we felt that the Indigenous community, they were suffering because of the pandemic in some way or the other. So we were there at their centers too, at the Women's Center in the Indigenous women shelters too, and we donated to the Indigenous women shelters. Let's go on, and I just wanted to share a few more details. And as I said, we are stronger together when we are working together for the same goals. So we helped, bring that smile, or help bring those donations to the seniors in our community. We shared free coffee at so many senior homes. I remember for Seniors Week, we gave out small token of appreciation gift hampers to the seniors, because they were the ones who were hit the most. It was pretty stressful for our seniors. And I remember our MCNAs, one of our Sunday school, where the children at our MCNA Sunday school, they made cards, they made video clips for the seniors to make them feel appreciated, to let them know that we are there. Message of hope and love for our seniors. And we donated at various women shelters, like over 50 women shelters we've donated. We gave 10,000 worth of food at different shelters throughout Canada. And we also did the Adopt a Family at Canada Food Bank, which, as I said, much needed work was being done at the shelters. And then we didn't forget the schools, because schools, the teachers and the support staff at schools were the frontline workers in making the system function, and the societies were working because of the schools this past year. So we've sent out school supplies and shared flowers and thank you cards. And you can all see these things on our website, go on our Facebook page. For Canada Day, we felt that, 2020 Canada Day was very challenging in the sense that we were feeling a little bit low. We weren't, celebrating it and going out in the public, but we went out and, shared a little bit of treat with our frontline workers in the hospitals. So that was something that we tried to do at the grassroots, at the community level. And I would say challenges are there. But challenges make us stronger in the sense that we learn new opportunities and new ways, and think of innovative ideas to go out and help the community. And Alhamdulillah, I would say that ICNA Sisters has worked tremendously at all fronts, and not just doing donations and doing community work. What we also did was we did so many awareness workshops, as you were talking about, doing everything, switching everything to online. We did so many awareness programs, like I mentioned about elimination of violence against women. We recognize the Black Canadians in our society for Black History Month in February. And we also celebrated Indigenous History Month. And I guess, being Canadians, being women, we are playing that active role in the community. We are trying our best, and we are showing the people around us that doesn't matter, what background I come from. If I am wearing a hijab, if I am wearing, a attire that makes me different, if I am of Black descent, I am from East Indian descent. It doesn't matter. What matters is that we are united. And I want to conclude today's session, amazing panel discussion that we had, was with this call to action, that the best of you, a saying from Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the best of you are those who benefit others. Even in the midst of a pandemic, we were there, giving out free coffee on World Kindness Day. We gave over $5,000, $6,000 worth of coffee throughout Canada. So little things matter a lot, and they go a long way. So I guess this is what is needed. And I would conclude by saying that tomorrow there's an amazing session that ICNA Sisters is having with FMW. Do go on their website and you can register. And it is recognizing the Muslim woman in the community. It is a collaborative project that ICNA Sisters is doing with FMW. And I will conclude by saying thank you to all our panelists for the amazing information they shared with us today, and enlightening us about how we can, as a woman, play active role in the community and do our part and be the ones who are benefiting others and building those bridges, and be a productive part of the community. I also want to thank you, our audience, for joining us from different parts of Canada. Special thanks to our technical team and our media team. And I also wanted to thank you, our Sisters Board, for organizing and thinking of this event and making it happen. I also want to say thank you so much to all our dedicated volunteers throughout Canada who have been doing these tremendous efforts over the past year, and they're continuing to do it in this pandemic. Last but not the least, I want to say thank you to our civic engagement team from Calgary, Edmonton, and Western Canada for putting this webinar together for us. And I hope it is beneficial to all of us. Thank you so much once again. And I hope to work with all of you again in the near future. And let's see, maybe in person. I'm hoping in person that we get to work again in the near future. Thank you so much, Dr. Fatima, and Ms. Nilu, and Dr. Nahla, for giving us time on a Sunday afternoon. God bless you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank